Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for being here and give you your time and your ears, your attention to hear my story. I can first introduce myself. I was born in China. I was raised in mainland China, and then when I approached my PhD, I went to the United States and stay here for about 11 years. And so, as the title said, I'm going to talk about my experiment on God because I am an experimental physicist. I know I don't look like one, but I am. I can prove it to you. And so, as you know, as a scientist, I have critical thinking a lot, and I don't really easily believe on those kind of things, especially the ones that are unseen. Instead, I will do a lot of experiment, the well-designed experiment, and to test it to draw my conclusion. So it's been a long way that I interact with this unseen world and do my own experiments on this world to really draw the conclusion that I finally draw. Yeah, before we started, I want to let you know that I never went to any religious school or get any training. So everything that I share in these videos is my own personal experience. And I may talk about some things that the conclusions I draw, the understanding, but it's only represent myself. I it's not represent any nomination or any organization or anything. So let's start it. I was born in 1986, January in China. It was the coldest day of that year. When I was born, the temperature outside the lodge is minus 40 degree, and even inside of the room, when my mom delivered me, there were ice. I was born at home because there's only one bed in the hospital and it's occupied. If you know anything about China at that time, it's really under it's a developing country, and in our area it's more like underdeveloping area. I was born at the border of China and North Korea. I was born, people even treat boys and girls differently. If a boy, then the family will give the midwife $10, 10 yuan, and if it was a girl, only five. My parents are gracious to me, so they treat me like as precious as a boy. So they give the midwife 10. Yeah, of course, every baby is precious and every human is unique. So am I. I want to point out several things that may relate it to my story in the later. So one thing is, I didn't cry like normal babies. I barely cry. Even the neighbors and my parents rarely hear me cry. Because as long as I can remember, I just know crying is useless. And I think nobody cares. Maybe because when I was 2 months old, I was sent out to public daycare because my parents has to work, and in the daycare, just one person take care of 10 to 20 kids, infants. So they pretty much just wrap every baby and put on the floor. Um, and also from my early experience that I know if you don't behave well, then you can be punished or mistreated. and it's very common at that time. So I don't cry. I just, if only I cry, I would just hide myself somewhere and cry to myself. And another thing I want to point out is I really do keep my promise. I will try everything I can to keep my promises or the things I dedicate to do. My mom always told a story that when I was about 8 months old and my mom need to go somewhere else, it's kind of far for days. So she is really anxious and worried about me. So she tried to communicate with me and tell me that in the following days I'm gonna be with dad instead of mom during the nighttime. And seems like I understand and agree. When my mom really left her home, I behaved really well with my dad. So I'm a kind of person that I'm very, very serious about my promises, whether it's a smaller one or big one. I will try everything that I can do to keep my promise. And I always trying to get things done better. I think a lot. For example, when I was little, I will start observing like the running water or the stove top and try to play with it, tune it, fine tune it so that the waters can be used maximum and the gas can heat the best. So yeah, that's just a way that I was always the ways I'm always thinking about things and do things. And I was also very mature, especially emotional mature, that I can handle things really well. And I'm talkative to my mom, but not to many others. And I thought about things that other kids around my age won't really think about it. And later in my life, I realized a lot of things that I believe since then is against the culture, but it's still true. For example, I believe that I'm kind of stubborn. I'm hard to be persuaded on certain things. For example, I believe that everybody can be wrong, including myself or anyone, as long as they call themselves human being, could be wrong. And the only one will always be right on all things is God. And when you hear those statements, you may think, yes, of course, it's common sense. But you know, back then in China, it's not really common sense. Actually, people don't talk about God, at least not publicly. Because at that time, the government tried to convince everybody that there is no God. If you believe in any kind of God, you're going to be punished, persecuted, and even locked up in jail. That's how serious it was in China. So I don't really know where those concepts come into my mind, but I just had it. And I really stand firm on those statements. Although I remember my parents and some relatives try to argue with me that they always right, so I should listen to them. But in my heart, I will always say, nah, I don't think so. Nobody can be really always right. Everybody could be wrong. I need to really check your statements. I don't really been persuaded by you. I don't think what you've done is great. And that's my character. And when it's like during the later year of the elementary school and the year of middle school, I started to realize my difference. And one of the things is that I remember I talk to an invisible friend a lot. A lot. I told him everything. And I feel like he is just a stand here, or maybe here. I don't exactly remember, but somewhere. And I can talk to him about everything and anything. I know he's 40, 24/7 awake, and he loved me. He's my best friend. He know all my experiences. He know everything that happened to me, and he even know my thoughts, not just every word, but even my thoughts, the things I didn't express. And I never lied to him. I may try to hide things from people, even my parents, but I never hide anything to him. And he always there to listen to me. He's so kind and he always willing to help me. When I ask for help, sometimes he say yes and do it for me, and sometimes he say no, and sometimes he didn't say anything. But no matter what, I know he loves me, and whatever answer or response he gives, I know is for my benefit because I know he loved me. Another thing is, I believe there is a God, one God, far, far, far away, up high. He is the creator of everything, even myself. He created me. I believe he is invisible. He is in control of everything. He created everything for a purpose. He created me for a purpose. Instead of just thinking about my life as being born, go to school, get a high score, go to top schools and get a good job, get married, have kids, and went through the life and then dead, I believe my life has a direction and has meanings. And those directions is ordained by this God, this high power that I cannot see with my bare eyes. But he's real and he knows me real well. He loves me. And as I mentioned before, I don't know where it come from. It's kind of weird because nobody would taught me about this. So where's it come from? And why I believe so? I even dare this is my highest top secrets that I dare not to share with anyone, including my mom or anybody. Because know they can think I'm crazy or try to persuade me, but I don't want to be persuaded. I just want to leave. And it feels so good. It makes me feel so good. Although at that time I still don't know exactly what my direction, what my life direction is, what I'm gonna do, where I'm gonna go, but I just know that he created me, he put me at that time, at that spot to do certain things, and eventually, after I went through this life, when I look back, I can say that yes, because of me, this world has become a little bit better. And I like that feeling, I like that thought. So I hold it to myself and believe it. And also, I remember that I talked to this God and I said, I don't really know what I kind of went through this life. And as I grew up, especially during the teenager years, I realized that life is not easy for anyone. Whether you're poor, you're rich, you're entitled, you're famous, you're nobody, everybody's life seemed to be really tough. Everyone went through a lot of hurts, pains, struggles, and all those things. But I talked to God many times. I vividly remember that I will look at the sky and said, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna went through this life. But one thing I choose to believe. I believe all the good things exist in this world. No matter what tragedy I will went through. I believe in love, in hope, in peace, in all good things. And I believe you are the source of all those things. How I know that? I don't know. I just choose to believe that. And I make a commitment to God. I said, whatever you let me to went through this life, I will never change this belief. But even to the day I'm about 18-year old, my life seems really normal. I'm a good kid. I get a good score at school. Actually, I'm the top one student of our whole county. So I went to the best high school that I could went. But because our hometown is very small and underdeveloped, so I end up have to take 4 hour bus to go to my school. So each year, after I went to high school, each year I only have 4 times to come back home. Another thing I believe about this God is He loves me and He will protect me. He protect me always, actually, and provide for me. There's one event I will never forget because it's the first time that I experienced a natural disaster. It's a snowstorm. It's so severe that even the train stopped, and literally hundreds and thousands of cars just buried under the snow. And that day is the day that I, I take the bus from home to school. And normally it takes 4 hours, but that day it takes 12 hours. And all my way, there's a lot, hundreds and hundreds and even thousands of cars. It's just cannot move and either completely buried under the snow or half buried. And the people have to get off their car and walk to the destiny or somewhere close. I sit in the bus and watch out the window. I know that I can be afraid, but I'm not. I just believe that God gonna protect me, and I'm so thankful that since there are two lanes, and if you go one lane and end up a lot of cars just being buried, you cannot pass through them, and maybe you cannot even change line because of the heavy snow. It's maybe impossible. So I'm so thankful that the driver always choose the right lane. We never be blocked. Although there's one time the bus almost slipped off the road, and every male come off the bus and try to push it back on track, and we did. So when I got to the city of my school, my high school, it's already midnight, and the snow already stopped. Normally, there's a lot of cars, and it's very easy to have a taxi. Um, but that night, just there's almost no car, and I walked for about 10 minutes. Um, there's a this taxi just come to me, and I asked him if he can drive me to my school, and he said yes. So just come to school. Everything is not perfect, but kind of smooth. And I never feel scared during the disaster. And later I know that my classmate, my roommate, they their home is much closer than I do, but they spend much more hours, and when they finally get to the city, they have to walk from the bus station all the way to school for hours because snow is too heavy, it's so hard to walk. And I'm not, so I'm so thankful for God. I don't think it's something that I can do. Of course, I can't. I'm not that special other than those tens of thousands of people. I just believe it's because of my God. I never seen him. I don't know his name, and so I just refer to my God. Actually, when I talk to him, I don't say anything. I just say you, just like I talk to any person. And of course, he's God. He knows everything. Of course, he knows who I'm talking to. And I just talk to him that way. And I'm really, really content with my life. And during that school years, I just try to be a good kid, and I try to study hard, again a good score so I can go to top schools in China. And that's all I do. Life seems to be really smooth and really good until